Hello and welcome back to the Motherhood channel. It has been a while, but we are so excited every time we get to sit in conversation, cup of coffee, cup of tea in hand, and be mothers that really want to be artists in the same space. So with me is Tonya Meeks and I'm Quinn Brown Huffman. Welcome back to the Motherhood channel.
Welcome back. We're excited to be back. We have a short time and I was like, let's just hop on and reconnect with everybody and reconnect with what we're doing. Life has gotten really busy and but I'm really committed to this and really love this process, and I love to see what like organically comes out and happens in our conversation. So that's how it all started. So I thought, well, we can just dive back in and do the same thing, right?
It is. I think, what's so beautiful about you and me both, and for everyone listening, is that it's rare that you find something where you are privy to an organic and authentic conversation.
Mhm.
And you and I are both leaders in the mental in the wellness, holistic wellness space.
Mhm.
We're artists first and foremost that became mothers and love it. And we want to merge and integrate all these worlds. And our conversations are always wonderfully rich with all these worlds merging. And it's fun to share it with everyone and getting the feedback that, if nothing else, it makes all of you listening and it makes me and Tonya feel a little bit less isolated and alone in this experience of experiencers in this world, is my take on it, at least.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there's a space. What hit me when you were saying, oh, we're part of the healing arts, we're moms and we're artists. I know for me, I've struggled for years with that healing archetype, when that healing archetype kind of takes the forefront. So if you think about like forefront, it takes the front. That's my little guy Sparrow. He was like, I want to be included. So he's going to ask questions along the way. Forefront is at the front of the line, like it takes center stage.
It takes your main focus.
It takes the
It
main
becomes what
focus.
you focus on. Mm.
So instead of focusing on being an artist, I focus on being a healer, maybe more than being an artist when you're a mother and the motherhood takes the focus and then the healing takes the focus. And then I feel like the artist part gets further and further back. But if I think about who I am as a human and what I'm meant to be doing in our soul's purpose, it is to create. And not that the healing art isn't creative, it is, but there is that piece. Because it's funny, because I was like, I'm going to do the YouTube channel. I want to do 365 days, blah, blah, blah. I was like, come on, Quinn, we're going to do it. Can you do it? And then I like dropped off, like, because I had this epiphany. I was like, oh, I should be doing pieces that are me, not my mom. And I'm going to today just record a little video and just show that we can get right back on no matter how big of a gap there is in us showing up for whatever project or thing or idea, that it doesn't mean it has to go to the wayside.
It's
Yeah.
the thing about expectations. Exactly. It's really allowing ourselves to begin again and again, coming back to it, no matter what, mind the gap. It's okay. Just jump back on and begin again and give yourself the permission to drop these ideas that it has to look a certain way because we said it was going to be this way. We have it's an interesting thing we do to ourselves and to each other. I think it's important to be accountable, and I think that's what we do for each other. And then there's also life happening. And if there's nothing else we learn as mothers, it's to hold space for all these elements and all these personalities and project managing and not leaving ourselves out of it. And this space is about coming back to you, coming back to me, acknowledging ourselves as artists, as people that want to create and add something to the world that others can engage and feel expanded by. Yeah. So keep coming back, Tanya. Keep going on there and just put your videos out there. They're so fun. You
I
keep
know.
You keep me hanging. I'm like, and where is it?
What's happening?
Before you go,
Sparrow's desperate to be included today. He was like, I want to hear, I want to be part of it. He's singing a Wham song. Do you guys remember Wham? Wake Me Up Before You Go Go?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Song. Yeah. Anyways,
Fine.
that he remembers. Yes.
We love you, Sparrow.
How has it been for you showing up on the YouTube channel? Because you've continued doing it. I logged in the other day and I was like, oh, wow, yay. Like it was made me so happy. So how has it been for you, the process? Curious.
You know, it's actually been very interesting because so the first part I made it simple and I just shared from my book with little interludes of other things, but mostly
Yeah.
just the journey of the book and the stories and its first draft. So I've really made it this space where I'm sharing the raw first draft of everything. This is what it looks like. So the next time you might see it, it will be more developed. It might be on stage. It might become something other. So it's really giving myself that permission to then show up on that daily or as often as I possibly can to share what is channeled through. Because I said to my mom this morning, I honestly, I don't know where this is all coming from. I feel really called to the paper, and some nights, some mornings, mostly in the mornings, it just writes itself, and then I feel compelled to share it. And this platform that we put together, this little wonderful whatever it's going to be, is giving us the opportunity. So I'm enjoying it.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I think for me, I think that there's Sparrow in the background. He's like, why haven't you been doing it? I liked you doing it because it's interesting. We were listening, which is totally me playing, parentifying my son, but we've been listening to, I was like, for the listeners, don't let your small child listen to this, but we've been doing it. Matthew Perry did like a memoir and we've been listening to it on like an Audible book. And for some reason, Sparrow loves it. I was like, why do you love, I mean, he is funny. It's all about drugs and alcohol. It's all about like very intense.
Okay. So you muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry. Anyways, so it's all about his life and and he's like, I love hearing about his life story. And I was like, oh, it's kind of funny that I did stories that are about like my life story and yet we're listening. So it really did inspire me where I was like, okay, I can just start recording funny little tidbits. And he was like, I want to be included. And I think that there was something when I was playing the mom character for both of us, Bear was like, oh, I want to hear you tell the story, not my mom, which is kind of me hide, even though that mom character that I created where I play my mom is so funny. And I created so many shows from that. And it was such a profound experience. There is another part where if I show up and just tell the story, because when we first started, you're like, oh, there's some resistance. And I was like, that's what I'm resistant to. If I could put the mom wig on, I could do like 50,000 stories and record 5
Yeah.
minutes a day. But when I'm going to take that wig of playing my mom and that persona of telling my mom's story, of telling my story, it is harder. It's interesting.
It's interesting to notice the resistance, and then just naming it because I'm constantly um, naming and dealing with my own resistance too. And for me, it was that it has to be this finished product, or it has, let it be in its finished space. And so I find my resistance go back when I'm like, this is not finished. This is so raw and real, and I'm going to flumber, and it's going to be, it might be messy at times. And suddenly, because that is what I'm designing it to be, it's much easier to show up in this space without trying to fix it. And for you, it's showing up as yourself and not your mom. So
yeah, and I used to go and do stand up and improv and had no problem just getting up. And I still don't, but there's something, I feel like there's some new piece percolating. And that's what, like the old style I had feels different. Even when I would get up and play myself before, it was like, it was like a different, there's just something different that's changed.
Yeah, you have shifted.
Yeah, so when I show up to do it now, it feels, yeah, I think it's in relationship to being a mother, like has changed something. It has shifted the pieces of the puzzle so much. That, yeah, so I think if I can let go of the idea that I'm creating one woman shows and that it's going to look X way, maybe it's always stories on YouTube, maybe it's a book, maybe it's poems, maybe it's just paintings, who knows, you know what
Yeah, what if it's nothing specific right now? You're just busy putting the pieces together. What happens then? When it's not supposed to become anything other than what it is for this channel.
totally, totally, yeah, so I'm going to show up and just see what happens, and maybe
How do you want me to keep you accountable? Do you want me to call you? What do you want me to do?
sure, let's, yeah. Sure, I'm like, sure, I do wanna do it, I desperately do. I think there was something about, taking off that wig or letting that go, or I feel like um I'm gonna cry. I feel like
Yeah.
doing that show was such a gift to my mom, and so I can feel my mom from the other side being like, "What do you mean you're not gonna play me like I'm gonna let go of some connection I have to her," which
Okay.
isn't that, but that's where it comes from. There's like some sort of like um through doing the show, I had a connection to my mom on the other side. Like, so if I take away focusing on that, which is silly, I could just talk to her regular. I could just have a conversation and tell me, I could just do it different. I can hear her now. She's like, "That's nonsense." She's like, "That's BS." Like,
Yeah, I
so
see
yeah.
you listen to her as you speak. That's really profound. She really is so present in your world. And as you become the mother, she takes on a different entity. And it's as if the more you embrace who you are and bringing to this world as the mother and this creator and writer is it's a whole new you said it, you named the resistance, so now you can move it, now you
Now I
can.
just get to show up and do it no matter what. So stay tuned, everybody.
Please do. I know my work is our work is so different, it's wonderful. So when you go on the channel, yeah, you will get a smorgasbord of things.
I know it's
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful.
I like it. And who knows,
Yeah.
we'll probably end up improving something fun.
I would love for us to do that. When I woke up this morning, I was like, "Oh, we should do maybe next week. That's what we should do next week is just improv something on here together."
I know. And if,
I
if there is some input as in ideas from all of you out there, please put it in the comments or send a DM on Instagram, the Motherhood
Mhm.
channel. It's really fun going to conversation and hearing what you hear. What little pieces are you picking out of these conversations that
Mhm.
resonates with you and that you want us to dive in a little more? And there's a few people that said they want to become part of this conversation. So eventually, when we are a little more consistent and
I
structured,
know, consistent with our, I still think we could start interviewing people or having experts on or whatever.
yeah, I have a few people that just as mothers and experts in their fields, but just
Mhm.
coming in into the conversation that is interested. And so it's just booking, setting the time, which will be
Yeah.
really fun. So if you out there really want to also join, it's just a message that you sent me and we set you up and we'll
Yeah.
call you in because this is an expansive space that we are in. It's always changing. That is nothing stays the same as mothers. Like we are constantly in phases. Right now, I was in this incredibly appreciative. Is that the right word? Like I was really appreciating where I was with my girls because they were in this sweet spot where everything was just going really beautifully. They were engaged in their lives. They were really both very happy. They were getting along. We were all getting along.
I know.
It
Yeah.
was absolutely bliss, right? And I was like, pause. appreciate this is incredible. And of course, everything is a phase.
And then everything shifts. I know,
Everything
right?
shifts. So now I'm in the mud. Things are not as like easy.
You're
It's
in the quicksand. I do feel like there's these magical moments where I'm like, oh, I figured out a strategy, or I figured out a system, or oh, everything is really syncing up. And then it'll go like a tornado or a tsunami just came through.
I just know the moment I feel like I figured it out. That's the moment it's gonna change.
For sure. I mean, for sure. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pretty funny, actually. The
it
desire.
is. And that's what makes this space beautiful too. These conversations will remain enriching and constant because it mirrors the motherhood space, and the motherhood channel mirrors the earth and all human experience. And so that's what I mean when I say it's expansive. And
Mhm.
it's not just parenting, and it's not just this, because we are coming into this space as artists.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not meant to be, yeah,
know.
psychoeducation about
Mm.
parenting or a style, though that might be part of the conversation sometimes. That is the uniqueness about this, is it's about coming in as artist. And I wanted to say, I was trying to figure out how to succinctly talk about like astrologically, like Pluto shifting into um shifting Saturn. There's like huge pieces that haven't happened since like 1776, like astrologically, like
Right.
really, really major. I was taking an astrology course and it's so complex that I was like, how can I um, explain it? It was looking at your astrological chart as like Pluto. What is Pluto as our greatest teacher, and what is our soul contract, and what does it want to teach us? And it's kind of fascinating. So I'll get back to you more when I have like a, I feel like I'm doing a deep dive of like synthesizing it and like figuring out how to help people like understand what it's trying to teach us, because I feel like there's a lot of maybe fear, or I don't know, there's just a lot of data, a lot of stuff flying around about it, which I feel like isn't exactly.
Yeah. So Sparrow
There's
just
this little button we have that
oh, okay.
says all kinds of crazy stuff that someone gave us. So you are a
Okay.
badass, basically. So it's great. Our podcast will now get canceled because I'm just saying. Anyway, Sparrow's like, I'm gonna push this button right now so we can play that in the
Oh,
background. So
oh, bunny. So yeah, I love that. I think that our understanding of the astrology and the world and the climate that we are all experiencing shifting makes everyone look at not everyone, let me retract that. More people than there used to be are now looking at astrology also, because it's all mirroring what is going on even internally for us. I see it in my clients, I see it in myself, I see it in my kids, in what is happening on this earth. And it is so settling for me personally to see that it's all connected somehow, or mirroring what is going on. We do not stand separate from any of it.
from
It's
anything.
fascinating. So please teach us
Yeah,
more.
I will, because he was talking about how, astrology, I think because there's so many Instagram accounts and so many people are talking astrology, so people have this lingo of like Mercury's in retrograde and this is my rising, and but then we're not really looking at the history and the planets from a mythological standpoint and like astronomy. Like there's deep, dense history there. So it's because I feel like it gets presented as kind of this fluffy, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, we're all hoping it gets out, and like these kind of airy fairy, but a little like, where there's not the gritty denseness of really explaining what's happening, so we can like have a guidebook or a map, not in a scary way or in a foreboding way, but in like, look, there's all these like things happening. What's your roadmap telling you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all comes back for me that we're vibrational, and it all affects each other. I mean, I'm learning with Charlotte on a science project a little more in depth on the tides of the moon, the tides affected by the moon and the gravitational force. And it just keeps bringing me back to how we are, everything is governed by this gravitational force, this sense of attraction. There's things that move towards each other on so many different levels. grand and small. Anyway, it's all fascinating.
It's
And
all fascinating, right? Yeah.
yeah, that's all. It
I
it
know.
really
You're
it's
like,
what
throw a curveball. I'm like, astrologically speaking, in the last 2 seconds that we have of the podcast, I want to throw in this really big topic, astrology. How do you feel about it? And where is Pluto in your chart? What if it's so
totally. I mean,
abstract?
I'm an Aries rising, so I am coming into some serious fire time with Saturn and everything.
Yeah.
And my book that I'm writing and everything is specifically for those in Saturn return, if I'm going to name it in the astrology or the millennials.
Oh,
But it's
interesting.
for, it's specifically for those that's going, that's
In a
into it
transformational.
and coming out of it. So it's the
Mhm.
23 to 35-year-olds really having to deal with all of that. So
I love it.
yeah, that's the part of my story that really was very formative for my work and how I move through the world
Your
today.
Saturn return.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Big
Me
time.
too.
Yeah. So that time formed what is happening for me right now. Because I feel like I'm back there, but I get to do it with all this experience that makes me trust this way a lot
Yeah.
more. So more,
Yeah,
I've got
that's true.
more
It's interesting. I
conviction.
started, yeah. What did you say? Sorry, I
I
interrupted.
have more conviction now about what I lived then, just because I was guided that way and it felt good to me. But now I do it because it feels good, but also because I'm convicted. I've got some experience in it. I've got a life
Yeah, yeah.
that showed me that this does work. My little theories works for me, and it might work for someone else. Who knows?
It's gonna
We're
work
all
for other
different.
people, for sure. For
Hmm.
sure.
So,
Yay. Well, I'm
all right.
glad we did a short, like getting back on the podcast with all
Yeah,
of you. Yeah, it feels good.
let's just keep going. I mean, it's short, but it's not short because once we start rambling,
I know.
it put us on stage and
I
we
know. We're ready to be. Well, I think there is a desperate need, like I think, to be seen and heard as mothers. And I think that there's not, it is, and I know we keep saying this kind of on repeat, but there is an isolation that comes in it. And even though I'm an extrovert that spins around the world, because I am an Aries, like at the rapid speed, and I'm out a lot, it doesn't mean that it's still not isolating. And that's what's fascinating. So,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, don't isolate. That is definitely my biggest prerogative is to connect.
Yeah.
Stay connected, everyone, to
Yeah.
whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Well, it's great
Okay.
conversations always. People stay tuned. Tune in on Instagram, the Motherhood Channel, on YouTube, the Motherhood Channel, or Spotify. That is where we are at the moment. And if you can follow and like and please comment, those are all super valuable to us. It makes us aware that you are listening and you are taking in something. Please know that feedback is gold. It doesn't all have to be positive, but just let us know how you feel and how you
Yeah.
would
Or if things
all
aren't
of it.
landing, or you're like, I don't know what is happening. What do you guys talk? Like yeah. We'd
Huh.
love to connect with you all and hear from you,
Yeah.
whatever that is, wherever you're at, whatever you want to hear more of, or what your experience of it is. Yay.
All right, everyone.
Okay.
Good luck out there and
I
always in
know.
love.
Big
Mwah.
love.